Story 1-1. Hover over popcorn and navigate my way through a bowl. Make coffee and sandwiches while leaning on the counter. Hold politicians accountable for lying during speeches. Story 2. Use it to always win at Jenga. Subtly move people's snacks closer to me. And keep the cat amused without making it suspicious. Story 3. Those games where you insert a quarter and may win additional quarters or other prizes in the return slot can be quite exciting. It seems I am becoming fortunate at it. Story 4. Move things in private simply because I have the ability. Could I make an object levitate, step on it, and then fly? Story 5. I would buy a surfboard and fly through the sky on it while wearing a very obscuring mask and outfit. I wouldn't be a hero. I would simply fly to places I want to visit, like on vacation or for shopping. I would make a vlog documenting skyboarding and all the places I go, the foods I eat, and the things I buy. I would never explain how I do it. People would just see a guy in a crazy costume flying to Hawaii on a surfboard saying, "Hello folks, today, I'm going to eat mahi-mahi over an active volcano. By the way, have you ever seen a bowling ball drop from 15,000 feet? Well, you're going to. Right after lunch." Story 6. Yes, I could lift all my furniture and clean under it. That would be great. I could also help the country. Story 7. I can't use my right hand because of a dislocated shoulder. This means I can't really go anywhere, as my bicycle is my main mode of transportation, and the gear shifter is on the right-hand side. Now, I'll cycle with one hand. No one will notice. Additionally, my hair will stay perfectly still in the wind. Story 8. Probably just irritate people. Move chairs, spill your cold drink on them, hide 10mm sockets from mechanics, and break the occasional bikini string at the beach. Story 9. People around the world would inexplicably experience cerebral ischemia at significantly increased rates. How tragic and likely just coincidental. Story 10. I would move flatware from under restaurant tables, tip over drinks of rude patrons, assist infants with blankets and bottles, and prevent my cell phone from hitting the floor when I drop it. Story 11. What is the extent of telekinesis? Do I have a limit on weight and speed? Why can't I tell anyone? Is that part of a deal or some external reason? Do I need to keep secret that I have telekinesis or that these powers exist in general? So many questions. If I can choose the exact parameters, then I am moving the moon a little closer to the Earth while anonymously blackmailing the United Nations to pay me to put it back or else. Story 12. I recently decided that I could not be trusted with telekinetic powers because I fantasize about tearing the tires off of bad drivers' cars before considering the consequences. I imagine that the power would take over before I could stop myself. Story 13. Buy a bunch of copper wire and coil it into a tower. Stack some neodymium magnets and place the stack inside the tower. Raise and lower the magnet stack repeatedly for the rest of my life. Story 14. I would levitate all the plastic out of the ocean and rivers and dump it outside the offices of all major oil companies. Story 15. Start cosplaying as Star Wars characters and go around saying you can wield the Force. Start a new religion and watch the world burn. Story 16. Go sit on a bench on a nice day in a busy area. Watch people and observe amusing behaviors. Story 17. Everything gives me hope that it's somewhat like people get distracted when I use it, and that's why no one knows. Story 18. If I am looking for an open space in a crowded parking lot and there is a spot next to a car that is parked over the line, I would move that car so it is parked properly. Story 19. Be the best National Football League punter in history. Nobody will care enough to investigate why it's always perfectly going to the corner at the 4-yard line. Make enough money and live happily ever after. Story 20. I would become a master trickster. I would go to a crowded bar or restaurant and have fun observing the reactions. Story 21. Cross the street high up. Lift my backpack slightly so it is not heavy, regardless of what is inside. I probably used it when my back was hurting. Secret rooftop outings at midnight. In fact, a lot of rooftop hopping. Float on top of the ocean. Fishing. Story 22. Roulette. You can't play it too often, but you can still achieve significant payouts before getting banned. Story 23. trolling and laziness. I might commit some mischief for my own gain. Please keep this confidential. Story 24. My second comment is this. I just realized the Redditor said, tell. They never said show or use in the presence of others. I suppose I'll be causing chaos and will deny, defend, and lie when people claim I have powers. Story 25. The world's strongest man has set every record in the classic Olympic lift, while weighing 65 kilograms and standing 175 centimeters tall. Story 26. I would fully embrace the anime style and begin experimenting on myself to test the limits and determine if those limits could be expanded. Then I would start engaging in various activities. Story 27. I work in a factory where you load the product onto the line. I am unsupervised 90% of the time. My job has become significantly easier. Story 28. Move objects slightly after people place them down so they recognize that is not where they put them, but not so much that they think someone moved it. This raises the question, did I really set this down at that angle? Story 29. Gambling involves throwing dice and playing games with a big wheel and ball. I don't gamble, so I'm not familiar with all the details, but a slight movement could easily lead to winning money. Story 30. Could I technically move my own body with my mind? So I would definitely try to fly. No one would know I have telekinesis, as they would be too distracted by my flying abilities. Story 31. I would become even lazier. Maybe I would place bets on sports events and use telekinesis for my wallet. Story 32. I'm relocating Mar-a-Lago in the middle of Gale Crater during the weekend while golf is being played. Story 33. Troll children by using it to help me pick things up off my classroom floor and then claiming its magnetic fields if they spot me. According to Lenz's law, our brand of glue sticks is slightly conductive. So, when you take this magnet I happen to have in my pocket, what are they going to do? Challenge me, their physics teacher, on the details of electromagnetism. Story 34. I would follow Jason Denault's example and use it to cheat at the craps table. Then leave before I lose my kneecaps. Story 35. Work in a casino. Influence who wins and who loses based on my feelings about who deserves it. Story 36. I would gather the dust in my home and make a small ball with it, then throw it away. My home would be constantly dust-free. What a dream. Story 37. If the act of teleportation resets momentum, it would have to in order to make teleporting over any significant distance possible without harming yourself due to the Earth's rotation. Therefore, parachute-free skydiving is conceivable. If my telekinesis is strong enough to lift my own body weight, then it would still allow for parachute-free skydiving. Story 38. I would be like a cat, pushing anything I didn't like off the table, or shutting doors that were open right in their faces. Story 39. Imagine having telekinesis and keeping it a secret. I would brew coffee and find lost keys with just a thought. Story 40. Many years ago, I read a science fiction book in which a character learned telekinesis and used it to teach his cigarettes to follow him around. Following this idea, I would have my phone, my car keys, and a pen following me as well, because right now I spend an excessive amount of time looking for where I put them down. Story 41. Roulette is played at every casino in the country, but only once at each location. All the skill-oriented arcade games with cash and valuable prizes will be mine. Some people will be very surprised when they discover random items in their yard, like my difficult neighbor, whom I would love to see try to handle an angry camel. If I could use telekinesis, I wonder if I could become the first overweight American Ninja Warrior winner in history. Story 42. 1. Force choke. 2. Stop cars gently without causing damage when I sense they are about to pull out in front of me from a side street. Gently push the car ahead of me along if it is clear and the driver is moving slowly. Story 43. It depends on my limits. Do I have a weight limit? How detailed can I go? How easy is it to multitask? Use cases I see include having my own construction company, mining, and possibly waste separation. If I could separate materials into their molecules, I could profit significantly by selling recycled materials. Story 44. I would go to parties with friends who own cats and then urge things off countertops. Here's the twist. I would blame the cat. Story 45, rob banks. Always point the cameras away from me and unlock the vault using my mind. Disconnect the wires for the alarm. Story 46. Become an exorcist, a highly paid and respected career. No education is required, and no one questions you. Story 47. I cause embarrassment to rude people and misfortune to bad people. Finally, I will develop a performance for my future hit song, Everything's a Boomerang. Story 48. Secretly fight crime and help during emergencies. People will begin to believe there is a higher power, and chaos will follow. Hone my skills further, become overpowered, and continue this path. Story 49. Talk on Joe Rogan about other psychics and emphasize that I only research them, not that I can do it myself. Story 50. I harass my enemies while publicly sitting far away. They can either endure or try telling someone and be put into psychiatric care because nobody will believe them. Then I become a professional magician and mix my real telekinesis with simple tricks, so nobody suspects a thing. Story 51. Win it in a hot hand at craps. However, there is a twilight zone called the Prime Mover. It is quite good. Story 52. Do something petty to people who annoy me. Block the aisle in the supermarket. I will take your car keys and place them behind the products. Cut me off on the road. I will remove your windshield wipers. Story 53. I would use my abilities to make people believe that some homes are more haunted than others, thereby manipulating property values in order to profit in real estate. Additionally, I can't help but imagine that do-it-yourself projects are much easier with telekinesis. Story 54. There are many options. Become a private detective. No place will be out of reach. I can put cameras and recording devices anywhere I please. Wildlife photographer. I don't need a telephoto lens. I just need a smartphone and plane tickets. Hazardous disposal unit. No one knows how I move things around so efficiently, but I get the job done. Spy. Similar to being a private detective, except I work for the government. They don't care how they get their intelligence, as long as it's good. If I am feeling particularly mischievous, I might go to a remote location and convince a small village that I am some kind of blessed or holy person by making things float. I would live in that village and see if I can make positive changes while being a freeloader. Of course, I will use these skills in my everyday life to enhance my laziness. Story 55. End billionaires. Steal their wealth and redistribute it to the most vulnerable. End wars and oppression. Regulate capitalism and promote a sustainable economy. Encourage curiosity and critical thinking by inspiring people to read actual books. Learn every language and uncover every secret. Find Area 51 and gain access. Destroy fascism and hold those accountable for their actions. Then, I would retire and focus on fighting against exploitation. Story 56. Play dice games and enjoy activities at various casinos. Spend time with my dogs. Make them really work for that ball, and provide them with good exercise. Story 57. All those drivers who weave in and out of traffic trying to get ahead would end up in the ditch by the side of the road. Story 58. I want to kill the president. Story 59. Hello, casino roulette. I make small winnings around $5,000 per day by visiting different casinos daily and controlling the roulette ball. I spend about 1 hour at the casino and then enjoy the rest of my life like a part-time job. Story 60. Start doing random favors for people. For example, when walking past someone in a store, if you notice they are thinking about a drink, time it so you can hand them the drink you bought and say, "Hey, I thought you might like this." Story 61. Go to every arcade with a claw machine and ensure that the claw does not release the expensive heavy items. Story 62. The Leafs would crawl closer to the Montreal Canadiens in their number of Stanley Cup wins. The Leafs currently trail only Montreal in total number of championships. I might become the greatest of all-time goaltender while I was about my task, despite my advanced age. Bearing in mind the number of wins needed to pass the Canadiens, and the likelihood that fans might find a goaltender on life support while playing his trade to be a bit off-putting. Story 63. Claim to be a descendant of James Heydrich and redo the pencil and page-turning challenges in sealed vacuums to clear his name. Story 64. Probably a variety of things depending on the limits. Assuming a reasonable amount of power, not like creating an air bubble capable of space travel and flying at near light speed to explore Mars, I would start a TikTok account doing impressive trick shots. It would require minimal effort, and people would think I had practiced extensively. It would be an easy side hustle. Story 65. Craps, roulette, sports betting. The ability to subtly nudge an object without touching it would make me very rich quickly. Story 66. I would be one of two things, either on the run, hiding with a group of people I brainwashed into becoming my followers, or about to be on the run, hiding with a group of people I brainwashed into becoming my followers. Either way, I would have a lot of stolen cash and other valuables in my possession. Story 67. On a scale from I can get the remote without standing up to I can send the entire Earth into the sun. How powerful is telekinesis? Story 68. I will playfully interact with others by moving small items around them. Alternatively, I might be a bit petty and lightly toss a coin or something similar at someone who annoys me. Story 69. Remove every ant, spider, and bug from my property. Unclog and clean the drains. Achieve perfect hair every time. Organize storage shelves safely and easily. Trim branches from the tall trees in the yard safely. Clean hard-to-reach gutters. These are all projects that could be done at night. Story 70. Depends. How powerful am I? Can I use it without any overt movements? How much can I move? These questions would heavily influence my actions. Story 71. Disable the landing controls for Air Force One on its weekend return from Mar-a-Lago. This is obviously a joke and not intended to incite violence or break any rules, as it is not a real situation. Story 72. I had a really strange dream when I was a child that I had telekinesis. I remember watching a man try to shoot some baskets, and I would just shift the ball slightly so it would miss. I do not even know why I did it. I did not hate the man at all. Story 73. Annoy my enemies' lives with small actions that may lead them to believe that poltergeists actually exist. Story 74. Exactly that. Do not tell anyone. Could you imagine the storm that would occur if someone was found to have it? I would quietly improve the lives of my circle, and nobody would know. Except for my wife because… Story 75. Would you believe I went to school with a guy and his sister who insisted they were born with telekinesis? It turns out they had been diagnosed by a professional, but the vague details they shared about the criteria the expert used did not convince me. Curious, I looked into the matter and ended up helping these kids, who, despite having parents born into comfortable circumstances, were victims of borderline malpractice, which clearly distorted their belief system. The guy I encouraged to discover his talent in mastering every aspect of the Telecaster guitar is now affiliated with the Fender Guitars headquarters. The girl specializes in toucan studies. Story 76. In one science fiction story I know, a major character had telekinesis, but it would have been a disaster to tell anyone. He used it to unzip zippers. Story 77. What does it mean to read minds? I think most of us believe we can read minds, which is why we struggle with communication. We often lack understanding. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.